I am going to be joined by three amazing guests. And yes, I'm Kerry Flynn. Kerry Flynn, media reporter at Axios. I'm joined by three amazing people who really live and breathe the creator economy, the YouTube world. It is perfect to talk to them about Gen Z. I'd love to welcome to the stage Nic Paul, CEO of Spotter. Woo! It's like, cheers. It's a slow walk. It's a count. We should have walk-on music. Colin Rosenblum and Samir Chaudry, who run the Colin and Samir Show. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. I'm sad we're separated, but I really appreciate you guys being here today. I want to start off with the big picture phrase we use here at Axios. So how do you think Gen Z is reshaping the way that brands need to behave today? I guess, Samir, you're closest to me. Do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, sure. I think like the internet has opened up a much more personalized and interactive form of media. I think the assumption of people with their media today is that they can shape it and mold it. And there's this really interesting stat from YouTube, just to give you a sense of how Gen Z consumes. 47% of Gen Z say that they're a fan of something that no one they know personally is also a fan of. And that just shows you like how personalized all of our feeds are and how incredibly niche content can get on the internet. So I think that's like a really interesting way to think about how things are being shaped. They want interactive content. They want to be able to play with the content. And it's also environments and communities that maybe their best friends don't even know that they're in.
That's so interesting. Nic?
Oh, yeah. I was also going to say the just storytelling in general. And that's what really we've seen is how Gen Z interacts with these storytellers, right? And the generations of today also talking to them, just kind of like Samir was saying. But you know, one stat again is that of Gen Z, right, 87% of them want to be creators. You're talking about, that's a large pool of 2 billion people. And so again, this is why they have that connection with this type of content, these types of formats. I think the really interesting thing that we've seen through the data is just how long this long form is getting. And it's very much the Gen Z TV of today.
I would say I think Gen Z is hyper aware of advertising, and they've been raised on digital advertising, so they require something new and different. We interviewed a Gen Z creator named Anthpo, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. So he was the architect of that, and that did not make him money, right? But he said he did it for the love of the game. And I think Gen Z is looking for content, events, and activations that feel like they are being done for the love of the game. He did a campaign for Crocs where he went around New York City and put 3D printed Crocs on the feet of statues, right? And it just seemed like he was doing it for the love of the game.
So fun. Timothy Chalamet contest. I wish I had been there. What a moment. Let's bring those back. I want to zoom in on what you talked about, Nic, about long-form content growing. There seems to be, there's this conversation. We see TikTok, we see YouTube Shorts, we hear all these stats, but you're saying that long-form, and you said TV is actually resonating with Gen Z. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So again, at Spotter, we have licensed over $1 billion of content on YouTube. And all the creators we work with, actually their average upload is 33 minutes long. And of all of the watch time, it's about 72% is happening on connected TVs, so in the living room. And so you're seeing this appointment-based viewing. Hey, I'm a creator, I upload every Friday, or I upload every other Saturday. And so you're seeing this, hey, return appointment-based viewing that's happening, but you're seeing it on long form. We have a creator that does hour-and-a-half episodes, average watch time of 30 minutes. And so that kind of attention is just something that I think is a huge shift that's happened, and it's continuing to grow.
I'm wondering about that with you guys. Obviously, you're creating your own content. Has your content gotten longer, or are you just pretty much the kind of same old?
Yeah, I mean, we have a talk show, so it's inherently just, it's built to be long. Like our episodes can range from the 1 to 2 to 3 hour range, and over 50% of our viewership comes from connected TVs, and the average view duration is 48 minutes on connected TVs. And you know, I would say our show probably has a bit of an older audience, but you know, there's a creator here named Pearson, right there. Pearson, if you can.
Woo!
She has 6 million subscribers. She makes amazing travel content and definitely squarely in the Gen Z demographic. Well over 50% of her viewership comes from connected TVs, and 65% of her viewers are returning. So people are opening up YouTube and choosing to come back to watch Pearson, in the same way that when I was younger, I would watch MTV or watch a TV show and couldn't wait for it to be on. That's what's happening in the world of long-form YouTube creators.
I also believe that length is a filter for level of interest. So even to use our own channel as an example, if we were to have Pearson on the show and the episode was 6 minutes long, it's much easier to click on that. If it's 2 hours long, the people who've clicked on that have really shown a level of interest.
Well, and I'm wondering how brands can be a part of that now, because again, we're talking about content that kind of feels like traditional TV, right? And the fact that people are actually watching it on TV. So in this new age of the creator economy, how are brands really winning again in this space?
Yeah, I think it's really about kind of figuring out how to own these moments, because these are moments. Like, we know, like, virality, sure, is on like social short form content and stuff like that, but I think on YouTube specifically, right, it's predictable. We know it's coming. So I think it's about surrounding and owning these moments. Obviously, the data does speak for itself, but from a spots and dots, even 15-second, 30-second spots, how can I be a part of what is going to be the biggest thing that's going to air this weekend, right? So understanding the programming and understanding the contextuality of that programming. What is the show about? What's the episode going to be about? We have learned that that's a huge unlock for brands. But then also from a branded integration perspective, how can I actually work in partnership with the creator to really thread my brand into their storytelling versus kind of what you've seen reverse of just putting out a brief and making sure they do something. So it is about partnership too, and versus like one-off. We've seen a huge shift in that.
Yeah, I would say also that a really interesting thing, especially if you've been coming to Cannes for a while, as the platforms came in, right, Meta and YouTube and all these platforms, the sell was like, these are more measurable forms of advertising, right? Like there's a lot of data behind this. As creators have become the modern celebrity, the question is, or maybe the assumption is, that a brand wants to come in and have like a very measurable campaign with a creator. But it's actually part celebrity endorsement, part you buy the media, and that's the measurable part of it. And I think you have to think about it from a much more dynamic lens. And what Colin's saying is like, the young audience has been inundated with ads. And also, all of us have too. You guys listen to SmartLess? Anybody listen to SmartLess in here? You get like 6 minutes of ads in the beginning of that if you're not listening through Sirius. And so I think we've all been kind of numb to it. And I think you have to really up-level the content. To bring up Pearson again, she has a campaign coming up with Liquid IV. And that has a mix of actually integrating into the content plus media on her channel. And like Liquid IV's, delivering a huge, oversized Liquid IV. She has to find the world's biggest cup to pour it into, right? And that's a fun part of the video. It makes the video better. Then there's also going to be media that surrounds it. And so I think you have to think about it through the lens of, is this actually entertaining to watch? And then let's also do the measurable thing and buy media against it.
Yeah, I think today, if you're not elevating the experience for the audience, you're actually creating negative sentiment. So I think you need to be hyper aware of the creator and their audience and what would actually make this a better experience.
What do you guys think about the growth of creators creating their own brands as well? Because what you just shared was obviously a partnership with Liquid IV, but we're also seeing maybe in the future Pearson could make her own version of Liquid IV. What do you see in the future of that? Maybe we'll start with
I mean, absolutely, creators are disrupting commerce in a very big way with product launches and things like that. You've seen it with Emma Chamberlain Coffee back. You've seen it with Beast and Feastables, Ryan Trahan and Joyride, right? I actually think it's about these passions that the creators have. We have a creator, Rebecca Zamolo, one of the largest female creators on YouTube. She actually had a tough time getting pregnant, so now she actually just launched Molo, which is a fertility supplement, because she used to have to take a bunch of horse pills. So I think you're starting to see, hey, I can take my audience, right, and this connection I have with them, and something that's passionate and relevant for me, and actually build products off of that and launch commerce brands and things like that. That's going to be a massive disrupted space, and I think some big brands are also trying to get into building creator-led brands as well, which I think is super smart.
Colin and Samir, have you guys thought about launching more brands in the future?
Yeah, I think the reality is a lot of creators are audience and opportunity rich and time poor and operator poor. So meaning like they don't have someone to help them do that. And I think what Nic just mentioned, like brands coming in to creators and building brands alongside them, I think is super interesting, or like pre-existing brands. You even think about like legacy brands that have existed in the past. You could probably revitalize those with creators, and I think that's really interesting. So I think you need like good operational support to do that. That's the X factor. And I would say for us, like we live in the world of digital products as we're launching brands. But there's a lot of creators, if they have really mass audiences, they can live in consumer products. It's a hard business. I mean, to really go compete for shelf space is hard, and you have to be a Emma Chamberlain, Ryan Trahan, Mr. Beast. But we're getting a lot more of those now. So, I think Target is going to look a lot like a creator marketplace in the next 5 years. It already does, but it's going to look even more like it.
Another interesting trend that we're following are brands even starting to look more like creators. So if you've seen Ulta Beauty now has a program to incentivize their retail associates to post content, right? They're some of the most well-versed people, accessible people, but now this is Ulta Beauty and their locations kind of becomes the studio, right, and the set.
It's interesting. There was an era when TikTok, I feel like, first launched where brands were really worried when their employees were using platforms like that. But now we're really embracing the power of it. One other topic that I feel like we must talk about is AI. And I'm wondering, too, just we're seeing Gen Z obviously embrace these tools. We're all embracing these tools. How do you think AI will impact the creator economy? We're already getting inundated by so much content day in and day out. I'm wondering, maybe Colin Samir, you can speak about how you're using like AI and again, what you see for the future of the creator economy with it.
Yeah, I think the generation is obvious, right? Like if anyone, has everyone prompted in the last 24 hours something, right? It's just what we do now. It's second nature. For me, what makes me think is like a lot of what we do is explore how people are spending their time and giving their attention on the internet. And so there was an Uber ride from Manhattan to JFK recently, right when GPT-4 image gen came out. And I was prompting images the whole time. And when I got to the airport, I was like, that Uber ride used to be spent on YouTube, Spotify, or maybe Instagram. But I spent the entire time on GPT. Is AI and producing interactive media like that actually an entertainment platform? Is it a media platform in the future? And so, as I mentioned, I think like the expectation of Gen Z is that they can interact with their media. I think that's why TikTok really took off, because it was an interactive platform. The line between creator and user of TikTok is basically non-existent. If you're making something on your phone, I can also make it. But now when I have a generative tool in my hand and I can just produce my own interesting outputs, that's what I start to wonder is like, where does attention go on the internet? Does it actually go into, is the next Mr. Beast an LLM?
It makes me think that Netflix always say like their biggest competitor is sleep, right? The fact that like now what everyone is competing with is actually the time spent with LLMs. Is there any other things you're thinking about how creators are smartly using these systems though, about how it's helped improve their workflow?
Yeah, I think 100% you guys can talk about this, the making them way more efficient, right? What do creators not have enough of? It's time, right? And so how can I get more time back? How can I be efficient? But I also think it's how do I continue to break through, right? It's very similar, I think, when like AI came in and started teaching people how to play poker. And then all of a sudden, like the gap between good poker players and bad poker players was very low. But still, there's something I needed to do to be able to stand out and actually win and have an edge. And that's something that the voices of these creators are going to continue to do. To your point, yes, a beast like LLM, but like would Beast have become himself as just without that emotional connection breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
So like, and so I think that's something where 100% is going to make people very efficient. And I think it's going to make some content obviously fully automated. It's like top 10 places to go and things like that. I mean, I think, right, when you think about the type of content, but when you talk about storytelling, we believe, right, because some creators are like, Spotter, you have so much data, you could just create content. It's like, no way. It's got to be about this connection that we're all talking about and how do you break through and stay on top.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like AI supported content right now, right? Like it definitely like supports us. Spotter has a tool called Spotter Studio, which supports all of us YouTube creators in coming up with better titles and thumbnails, because the reality of YouTube is if people don't click on your video, then no one watches it. And we were just playing with it and prompting for a video that we have coming up, and it gave us an output that we just would have never thought of. And so I think creativity requires a lot of variations, and AI, like the pace of iteration on AI is so fast that you get to see so many ideas before you would have 10 ideas, right, yourself. And that's a weird thing as a guy who grew up as a creative, and Colin and I grew up in just sitting in rooms coming up with ideas. It almost feels like an archaic thing to do now, right?
Sometimes we're talking to each other and we're like, is this inefficient?
Yeah.
Like, should we separate and spend some time on GPT and come back?
Yeah. I talk to Colin's AI all the time.
Yeah, I just put him in touch with my AI.
But then you'll record content later, like just when you're planning for the with your AIs. Yeah. Well, actually leads perfectly into my next question. You guys are now 15 years into your business.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what the future of the Colin and Samir show looks like. What are you guys excited about and planning for?
Yeah, we're really excited about live events, to be honest. And I think a lot of creators are getting into that right now, too. There's Dude Perfect, who's a partner at Spotter, they throw this big world tour, and it's absolutely packed. And I think as things get more and more digital, first of all, I think as human beings, we'll always want collective experiences. Like, that's why we all flew to the south of France. And I think we'll also start to want verifiably human material. I think that's why stand-up comedy is getting really big right now. You think about like AI increases our efficiency, but we also want like these inefficient experiences of just being together, and I want to watch something happen on stage and laugh at the same time as someone else next to me. Or Colin brought up the Minecraft movie and the success with that.
Or Barbie, right? Like the movies that are actually working in Hollywood right now are the movies that are giving people an opportunity to share what it was like to be together, right? To show up dressed in pink, right? Or in Minecraft at a specific moment for everyone to throw popcorn and scream, right? So it is about these verifiably human experiences. And I was asked yesterday from a smaller creator, like, hey, I'm a little overwhelmed. Like, how do I break out, right? Because it feels like I'm behind, especially as bigger creators start to adopt AI tools and pile on to their existing brands. And what I told this guy was like, I think at the end of the day, you should try and find a way to prove to yourself that you're providing value. And I believe that's in live events, whether that's, a live event online, right? And seeing who shows up, or a live event in person. I think you can start small and just prove to yourself, oh, I'm actually having an impact because people are willing to take time out of their day to hang out with me.
I also think that's where like Twitch streamers are really winning right now, right? Like some of those culturally relevant creators, Kai Cenat, I Show Speed, because you get to sit and like somebody live for 8 hours, you're gonna get a verifiably kind of authentic human person right there. And I think that same thing happens when like we're right here. I can't really fake this for that long. So you're just gonna get me, in like however I'm feeling right now or whatever's going on. Like you're just gonna get this. And I think that's we're really bullish on live events and allowing people to shape the event that they're at.
I love.
This is AI, Samir, by the way.
Yeah,
this is everybody knows.
Me. This is not me.
I love that you brought up Twitch. We had Dan Clancy, the CEO, on our stage earlier, and I think you're right. They're having a great moment because it's not only those live in person, but also virtual events that really just truly bring people together. We are out of time. I want to end on one fun thing. What's one creator we should be following right now? I know we've already heard great stuff about Pearson. Any other great recs that you have for us? Colin, if you want to start,
I would say someone, if you don't know who her's just interesting and doing something sort of ahead of the curve on YouTube is Kanigra Dion. So YouTube obviously has been a home for unscripted content, but she's making scripted content 3 times a week out of her own production studio in Alabama, sort of redefining what Hollywood looks like.
Yeah, I would say there's a great creator named Veritasium, and he makes like very in-depth video essays about like science topics, stuff that I would never be interested in, but I can watch a 35-minute video from him. And I think it just tells you a lot about like how important storytelling is in education and how maybe creators are going to be the professors of tomorrow. So I just think it's an interesting to watch.
Already a big creator, but in a unique moment in his life and actually doing a huge stunt right now is Ryan Trahan. He's doing 50 for 50, where he's traveling around with his wife to 50 different states, 50 days, raising money for charity. He always does a big summer event, but I think coming out of this, it'll be like 3 billion minutes of watch time, and it'll be an event that ultimately just reshapes him in his career. So,
Amazing. Thank you all for those amazing recommendations. I'm going to be busy tonight watching all that content. But again, lovely having you guys here.
Thank you
so
Yeah,
much.
thanks for having us.
Thank you.